for you guys today. Start thinking now of some questions you want to ask about the subject, because I guarantee you he'll have some excellent answers. But Billy has been super, just a great influence in my own personal life as well as the other SDs. So you really are truly blessed with this speaker today. So his bio, I'm going to read a little bit of it. It just tells about who he is, things like that. Billy Johnson is his name, Billy Johnson. He's the past executive director of PLP. He held that position for 6 years before passing it down to Rachel Cleveland, who you guys know and have received emails from. He has been instrumental to the growth and development of the program and has been a tremendous resource to PLP students and, quite frankly, everyone around him for support and mentoring. He is now retired but works as a strategic advisor to corporations and nonprofits. So let's give him a PLP warm welcome.
Good afternoon. My whole PLP life cycle with afternoon and evening, so I think we're still on afternoon stage. So rules of engagement. I'm going to interact with you guys, try to get you very engaged with me. And so we'll start that pretty early. I want to make it very interactive. I know you guys have had what you started last week in August. So you're about, 6 weeks into kind of PLP-isms. And so I know you know how to do the stand-up, tell me who you are, your class, whatever. Everybody's got probably practice on elevator speech. You got a whole lot of stuff done in a quick period of time. And then I guess you're 2 or 3 weeks away, if my clock's right, from probably some level of midterm exam, right? So stuff happens fast. So I see some faces I knew from before, and it's a good opportunity to come back. I appreciate it. And I'll say this on the front end. Anything I can do to help support you guys, just reach out to me. LinkedIn is a good option. My UNT email still is live. I'm an active, what we call the state of Texas retiree, so I actually still have my same email. But if you need something in terms of advice or trying to connect with someone, send that to me and let me know, what and how I can help you. So that's standing off. So what I want to talk about and get you engaged with is servant leadership. And the reason I obviously want to spend time talking with you about that, and we do it early in the semester, is because that's the foundation of this program. As Alex mentioned, I'm moving from Dallas to Houston. As soon as I get a house finished being built in Houston, we started having rain, so the progress slowed down. And one of the things you do with a great house, or a good house, quality house, is build a foundation. That's what you're doing as a student, obviously. You're building a foundation. You started in elementary school, or whatever you may have called it, because we're global, so everybody's term is not the same. You went to something called middle school, or something like middle school. You went to something like high school, or something like high school. And now you're at UNT, and some of you are, is there grad students in here? So you're working on this undergrad foundation, Russell has, they came out, and you're building on that from the undergrad foundation to graduate school. So the foundation is something that you stand on, the strength of it. Principles, morals, values. One of the critical things about PLP that's a non-negotiable for you, I hope, and for me, if I've learned that, will be your ethics and your integrity. Those are the things that you want to never compromise, no matter what role you're in, no matter what you do. There's no price of money for any job or opportunity where you want to give that up. Just very simply put, just having the right idea about doing the right thing all the time. And that's not a relative definition. We do have a lot of relativity. I was a political science major, pre-law, you have different majors. So you get different exposures about the truth and not the truth. And if it's a philosophy major, bless you, because you can go around circles forever about the thought and the things. But the facts are, when it comes to being a morally strong person, ethically strong, committed, that looks one way. And the test for me always, if you ever do something that your mother, grandmother, parents, best friends will be embarrassed by, then you crossed the line. That was not a good ethical decision that you made. So servant leadership in that context relates to a foundation of values and things like that. So Alex is going to help me tonight because we have a non-existing clicker, I think. In short, because you've been in class all day, and like I said, for 6 weeks or so, this, I'm not going to go through all the theory of it, but the father people call of servant leadership is a guy named Robert Greenleaf, and you can see the time frame. The second bullet I think is an important one. They talk about a paradox. So what's a paradox? Who can give me an example of a paradox? If I I get volunteers, I'm just going to be picking somebody else. If somebody want to come forward, give me an example of a paradox. Just a simple example. What's a paradox? So he was very thoughtful. Tell me your name and give me an example of paradox.
Nolan Taylor, Business Analytics. I'm trying to think of an example right now. Can't really think of one.
Well, we'd be a paradox. Keep saying it. Because I was a political science pre-law major, I call it big data major. That's a paradox. Okay. He knows things and working in a world that mine is one of laws and compliance, whatever. So just something juxtaposed, right? Different kind of things, not in conflict with the paradox. The paradox, thank you, for this one is that the idea that a leader is not out front, really. A leader in a certain leadership model supports and follows people. So one of the traditional models you have, and she talked about my experience in doing this corporately before I was here, is in most of the corporate structures, and many of you are in, I know that, profile other organizations. And if I look at your organization charts or something like that, there's probably a president or a chairperson, right, at the top. Now, the idea about certain leadership is completely different, and the paradox lies is you flip it. So if I'm the leader or the chair or whatever my title will be, then the idea is that I serve the organization. It's resting on me. And I'm expected to deliver to it. It's not the traditional model of you're supposed to do something for me. It's where I sacrifice for the greater good. Therein lies, interesting, the paradox. Because our traditional orientation, particularly in our American economic system, political system, et cetera, is the woman or the man at the top. And everybody's job is supposed to make them look good. Now, I've had the bosses like that, and I did what I was supposed to do to make them look good. But I also had some that were servant leaders. So it wasn't about him or her trying to look good. It was about trying to see what they could do to invest in you. So that's the difference. It's service to others, it's sacrifice to others, it's putting yourself second, if you will, and them first, which we're typically not wired to do that. The classic example is anyone in here a parent? Okay, so you'll relate to this. So babies have an objective, especially the first year, I'll say, which is to what? Well, eat, but give me a little more. To get their own what? Get what? Whatever they want, right?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, babies are wired to survive. They're wired to be selfish initially. Because if they don't cry and act a fool and do some crazy stuff, we don't know that they need anything. So it's not the negative thing, but they're wired to, particularly I say the first year, it's not typically, maybe you start walking at 9, 10 months, but first 12 months, highly, highly dependent. Not a whole lot of vocal skills necessarily. So they're wired to get what they want. It is all about them. So use that example. And some of us don't necessarily grow out of that, so it's very hard to be a servant leader because we still want what we want when we want it the way we want it. And so that's why it's a paradox can be very, very different. So that's an example. So this is his definition, and these slides are available. We're not going to walk through a whole lot of that, but I want to pick out a couple of things here that's unique. So if you look at the second part of the paragraph, it says the best test is to do those is the following. Do those serve grow as a person when you're a servant leader? Do they, while being served, become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants? And what is the effect on the least privileged in society? Will they benefit, or at least will they not be further deprived? So the concept Greenleaf had in 1970 would be a radical concept today, because what Greenleaf is talking about is making everyone a whole lot better. The idea he's pulling everyone up is the concept dimension. And that's what you're supposed to do as a leader. Again, if I'm running for office and we're at a political election time right now, typically I'm going out and trying to convince you to vote for me. So I live in Plano, and it's an interesting dynamic in the neighborhood period. Any other Plano, Collin County people? So you swear the only two people running for office right now is either Ted Cruz or Beto. There are signs everywhere, and that's it. There are, I don't know what, hundreds of other people running for offices, but the whole focus in Collin County is about these two particular people. Now, by way of compare and contrast, and I'm not making a political statement, but an observation, Beto seems to have this approach about I'm willing to serve and I'm trying to help. Cruz is we're trying to fix things and not get things broken, messed up because this guy's too far out there. And that's just my point of view. And look, I'm not saying who you vote for. I don't really care. You got to vote for who you vote for. My only thing on that, and I'll end that, is vote. That is a significant responsibility that does make a difference. To choose to not vote and then whine and complain. Okay. But what's juxtaposed there is one person's pitching this kind of proposal, an idea, a concept about what I'll do as a leader. The other has a very different approach and concept and idea. So just put that out there because you'll see it on TV if you watch it, or you see it you're driving on the street, or you run into one of these conversations when you're home visiting parents or something. You go, oh God, I got to get out of here. So that's the whole idea about this. It's very, very different. It's radical. So 3 people. I'm going to stop and we're going to take a break and talk to have you do some work. So these 3 people are identified as examples of servant leader, and there's a reason why. We're going to get behind that. So what I want you to do in the breakout groups, because I'm not going to give you anything, you're going to figure it out if you don't know. Somebody in the group will know. So just kind of it's kind of a massive thing here, but I'm just going to take this whole side, and you guys kind of get these names of who are these 3 people. Take this group, divide you in half, and I'll pick out somebody and ask you who they are. And then this whole group over here, which is smaller, this is who are these 3 people? First part of the exercise. Identify them. Someone will know in this big enough group. 2, why do you think those people are there? And 3, what influenced these people to be servant leaders? Circumstance, condition, factors, what was it? So this is like a power exercise. You got less than 5 minutes. I'll kind of watch body language behavior, and then I'll call time, and we'll have an engagement around this.
It's a shot.
All right, so let's get a wrap. So let me start with the easy one first. Was there anyone up there that one of these groups were not identified? Didn't think so. Figured out this much brain power you identify those. Okay, so I'm going to start on the left. And so tell us who these 3 people are. You can make the easy assignment on the left because it's a smaller group. So spokesperson for the group.
Yeah, we identified.
And you are?
Oh, sorry. Trevor Davis, marketing major, senior.
Great.
We identified him as Abraham Lincoln, Mother Teresa, and Martin Luther King.
Okay.
And collectively, we said that they were individuals who sacrificed a lot. A couple of them were actually reluctant leaders at first, but they realized that what was at stake, and then they needed to get everyone together to accomplish a monumental task, and a lot of them, they cost them their lives, but in that journey, they became huge servant leaders and really made huge impact.
Great, thank you, appreciate that. So this group I divided kind of here, left, right, so I'm going to go this right side. So picking on Mother Teresa, why do you think Mother Teresa had a certain leadership style? What would have been the influence? What would have been the background? Why was she a certain leader? She was a nun, right? She could have done the diminutive service, humility, and we would have never known about her. So what is it? Why was this? Why do you think it would motivate? What do you know about her a little bit? Some knowledge, just don't make anything up. But why do you think she became a certain leader? Yes?
Yes, Benson, professional secretary. So Mother Teresa, I know that she has a medical background, and with her purpose of life, I'm guessing that would be serving her religious aspect. But I think that she took her medical background and saw that as like a duty to use that, her skills as a medical professional to like do the uttermost with that skill. So she used her medical background to, create all kinds of different help for people with needs.
What were the circumstances? Yeah, she's had a nursing background.
I don't think there's any specific circumstances like that created her to start that. It's just that the unjust parts of the world, I would say. It's nothing like that hit that made her do what she did. It's just that she saw an ongoing problem we have in the world, and she decided that it was her duty with her personal skills, her medical skills that she had. Specifically her, she took that skill and did the greatest she could do with that skill.
So Jens, is that appropriate? So in this group, this team, thank you, Jens. So I want somebody to help add some context for Jens, because there is a circumstantial or conditions that probably drove her to use that medical. What were the circumstances, conditions that she was addressing? Who knows about that? Okay, so that's no problem. We're going to get there. So there's a whole big team effort here. So left side. So I'm going to pitch it over to you. What were circumstances or conditions that may have been a factor in Mother Teresa using her medical nursing background for where she did it, how she did it, why she did it? What were the circumstances and conditions?
Alejandro Hernandez, senior marketing major. I think it had something to do with either the war or like an epidemic in like India or something. I don't remember.
You're getting closer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Marketing major, I'll just say leprosy.
Leprosy. So here's the bottom line. She had gifts and talents, and she had an opportunity. Oftentimes we don't think of an opportunity because of a bad circumstance condition. It was extreme poverty. It was extreme illness. It was the epidemics. Her world she was living in around her was extremely impoverished. It could not have been a worse set of circumstances and conditions. So in the face of that, she could have chose to either just be a nurse, help people out a little bit and pray, but she went all the way to the other side of it, that this has to change for these people. It couldn't have been worse, bottom line. The health standard was as low as it possibly could have been. The death rate was as bad as it could have been for people. There was, mortality was terrible. It was an absolute terrible environment that we couldn't even envision unless we've been in a situation like that. So that's what the motivation was. And what I want to point out with the questions, I appreciate you guys, is there's always a compelling factor, reason why people typically would choose to go this path. Because she became a Nobel Peace Prize winner, so did Martin Luther King. But they didn't go at this thinking, man, if I knock this out of the park, I'm going to be the woman, I'm going to be the man, I'm going to be the boss. They had no goal set to that. It was about, I have to change these conditions and circumstances. And it was one individual that got other people involved. So another principle is, I may have the heart for it, but then I get other people involved in it. So there's that commitment. So I appreciate that. But always keep in mind, when you think about this, you're serving as being a servant leader, your model is, what's your compelling reason as to why you're doing it? Because it sounds cool, right? Why wouldn't you want to be a servant leader? But you got to have a compelling reason. You got to be willing to sacrifice to make that change. And you may or may not make that difference. You don't know. When they started to do the things they didn't know that this was going to be the outcome. Mother Teresa had no idea. And I can't recall now, I think maybe 60, 70, someone's going to look this up. She's been dead a very long time. She had no idea she'd have this legacy. It would be this sustainable. She'd be on a screen somewhere in America where a group of leadership students would talk about her as a servant leader. That wasn't her motivation. So compelling reasons, circumstances, conditions that she chose to say, this can't be. I've got to do something about it. So let's shift over. Person on the left. My left now. Your left. Who is that? So let's see. Let me go back here. We're going to finish this up and then we'll switch over. Who's that? Who's our guy on the left? Anybody. Not a multiple choice. We got one possible answer. Yes.
Actually, the entrepreneurship, it's Abraham Lincoln.
Yes. Okay. So you were ready to help us out here. So Abraham Lincoln. Why do you think Abraham Lincoln was up there? What did he do?
He wants an entrepreneurship major too. So he helped abolish slavery, try to help give slaves their rights and get them out of what they were in. He was part of the Civil War too.
Easy job?
No.
Everybody's aligned?
No.
Everybody want to do that, right?
No, North and South were
Yeah.
not friends.
Circumstances, conditions, right? Abraham Lincoln didn't go up against a few people thinking this is a good idea, right? Slavery was not in a community in one neighborhood. It was pervasive. It was culturally set as much as anything else we had at that day and time. Most of his cabinet, do people know, you ever read a book called Lincoln on Leadership? If you want a simple manual to keep on leadership, it's called Lincoln on Leadership. Most of Lincoln's cabinet almost hated Lincoln. But Lincoln chose to go at every cabinet member where he, I think they're all men, I think he had, wherever they were, to try to engage them and help them. So this was like a popular guy in his White House. He was clearly not popular society-wise with this idea because he was talking about changing, back to our paradox, an economic system that was largely benefiting significantly from slavery and landholders and the economy at that time, and flipping it saying, this isn't right, this isn't fair, these people are being persecuted, prosecuted, we're going to flip the script on this. That was the popular thing to do. This was truly a right to bear arms type of world he lived in then. You know, as the saying goes in the hood, he would bust a cap on Abraham Lincoln by talking about what he was talking about. This was not like, oh, this guy's got a radical idea. We got to shut him down. We got to get our candidate in. That was not the case. This was extreme. Mother Teresa's case was extreme. She's a nun. Catholic background people, don't have to show your hands, but the point you know, in that structure, as a nun, and as a priest, as, you know, you're supposed to be totally submissive. You're not supposed to be jumping out and being distinguished. You're to serve in humility every single day. You're not supposed to go up against the system, as Mother Teresa did, and say, this has to end. I've got to do something about it. So, servant leadership, right? They put themselves out there. Abraham Lincoln ultimately paid the price, didn't he? A wacko guy that killed him. Right? So, far right. What am I far right over here? Who is this person? Factors, circumstances, condition. Who is he? Why? What drove him? What do you think made him become a servant leader? Yes.
Russell Willis Education Jr. That's Martin Luther King, and he was seeing what was going on around him, and he noticed that no one was taking action, so he decided to take action and was willing to put his life on the line.
What was his factors, conditions that you think drove him to that? What was the times like? Good times? Everybody's having fun?
Bad times, a lot of killing, murdering, things like that, acts of violence.
Salient point. What else was going on in the U.S. at the time? You don't have any eye contact, help us out.
Me?
Absolutely.
I'm Desiree. I'm a business analytics major. I'm a senior. Basically, the world was segregated.
Yeah. So you go back to Abraham Lincoln, who abolished slavery, 18-something, right? 60-something, probably, my historians. And you fast forward to, I'll just generally use 1960, and here's two people hundreds of years apart, still fighting an issue. It's like slavery, racism. Mother Teresa's issues, health, impoverished people, people not getting their fair share. Same set of conditions and circumstances. Globally and historically miles apart, but servant leaders. Martin Luther King's conditions growing up, right? Segregation, poverty they saw around him, the inability for people to be able to progress. See, Martin Luther King was not a black militant leader. Martin Luther King was a global leader about peace. Did anyone know who his hero was? And where his hero came from? One of his key role models and heroes, Russell. You may know this. I'm just picking on you because we know you. Who was, you know?
Russell Bouye, graduate student, Human Resources Organizational Behavior.
Do you know that little fun fact?
They arrested him?
Yeah, that was one of his people in his circle. So let me give you another hint. Gandhi. Where was Gandhi from? Where? Where's Mother Teresa from? The original, but where does she do all this work at? India. India. Nepal. Middle Eastern, right? Connected, right? We're talking connecting the dots. So you got Gandhi, and what was Gandhi's philosophy, simply put? One word, what was it? Violence or what? What was it? Was it violence?
Peace.
Peace. What was Mother Teresa's way she took her approach? Peace. Action. Abraham Lincoln, did he round up his troops and say, okay, we're going to go out and wipe everybody out to make this happen? There was a war. Let's not put that aside. But that was not the approach, right? Peaceful, methodical approach serving other people. So you got three people distinctively at a point in time in history from a different perspective globally who had a mission. Alex, good. So characteristics of servant leaders. We've talked about these three people a bit. And again, these slides always make these available. Listening, empathy. No, you can go back. Listening, empathy, healing, awareness, persuasion. One of the most interesting to me on this, when I ever saw this model of servant leadership, was bullet 3. And the reason was I've never worked or been around, nor was it my thought process that there is a healing involved as a leader. Kind of jokingly, my dad's generation, he said this term, and they go, oh, that was deep. The education comes up, now, I forgot it. But what was deep about that was what? What's deep about the healing concept of the leader? Just what do you think? Give me your reaction.
It's not graduate student, business and analytics.
I'll come to grad student, that's good.
So I think the feeling is you have to have that heart to help people and help them to overcome what they're going through.
Great. Key word, she's sort of soft-spoken, the heart to help people. So if your heart's not in it as a leader, thank you so much, then you're not going to be as fully effective as you can be. So the healing looks like this, right? Tell me your name.
Jonathan Gates.
John, let's do a quick intro. Give me something. Hi, Billy Johnson.
Jonathan Gates, marketing major.
Graduating?
May 2019.
It could be December, right?
Yes, sir.
You want to tell me that because I might have jobs. So, developmentally, you guys are all working on development plans and goals and all that sort of stuff, and you may have already done one-on-one. So what's just one of your goals that you want to share with the group one-on-one? Barry, just what's one goal? One of your personal goals.
To learn more about the marketing field and just kind of how people think and why they think that way.
Okay. So, did you hear it? For those who are learning about the marketing field, thank you. So now, I'm going to do a reach on this one example of healing. So the healing thing was making him better, keeping him whole so he can accomplish his goal. That's what you can do as a leader. So if I'm investing in him as his mentor, which I did mentoring for 10 years before I got hired out here working corporately, one of the ways that healing looks like, we don't think of it all the time, is because I'm helping him reduce his stress for finding a job next summer by having a good game plan. My elevator speech, my resume, my contacts, my networks, all those things